So, is the tea house one of the most popular sites in the museum? Or?
Yes, the tea house is definitely one of the most popular galleries, primarily for school tours. The children really love it. It was renovated a few years ago to make it a little more authentic, to clean up the lights upstairs, so it really looks like a daytime scene in Japan. But it seems to be one of those things that that visitors remember from their visit here.
Yeah.
It's a very unusual, and as with many of the things in the Asian galleries, it was moved here from its original location. So the Indian temple and the Chinese palace hall and all those things were moved here. And actually, this part of the building was constructed around some of this stuff because it was so large.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very interesting.
And actually, speaking of that, how long will it last? Because it's made of all natural materials. Is there upkeep on it, or how do they?
There's definitely upkeep. The conservators in the museum work all the time on keeping up not only something like this that is natural materials, but all of the artwork. Things that are on paper, for example, there's a lot of conservation efforts to keep those things from having problems being exposed to light and being exposed to air, that kind of thing. Some of the stuff is so old. But this was originally built outdoors, so even though it's probably in a better condition inside, absolutely.
Very seriously. Okay.
That's a big part of their tradition.
Okay, that's what we weren't sure if it was.
No, absolutely no. That's not. That's the interesting thing about Japan. I only know this because I live there, but there's an interesting kind of meshing of old and new in Japan. Even in a city like Tokyo, which is where I live, you'll see very traditional dress on people, and then you'll see very modern Western dress. You'll walk down a street in Tokyo and you'll see a very modern looking high-rise right next to a temple building that was built like 1300s, 1400s. So the old and the new coexist very well in Japan. It's a very traditional society, and they revere their old traditions.
Yeah. Okay. And so it's a part of popular culture, not just an elite kind of culture or anything.
I mean, it's more ceremonial than it is an everyday kind of occurrence, but it was always that way.
Okay.
It was always that way.
And then, is there more of an everyday version of the tea ceremony, or is it something separate?
The tea ceremony itself is very strictly performed.
Okay.
They have a way that they do it. They china that they use. They have a particular kind of tea. It's brewed a certain way. You dress a certain way. You sit.
We're in the Philadelphia Museum of Art on the second floor in the Asian Art Gallery. Behind me is Sankaruko, the ceremonial tea house, which means evanescent joys.
Are you still filming?
Hold it over his head.
This tea house was made in Tokyo in 1917. It was designed by Ogi Roda. He sold it to the museum in 1928 and installed it in the museum in 1957.
The tea house is designed in the rustic tradition or artless style of the 15th century artist Agori Soton.
Go.
The materials used were wood, bamboo, stone, metal, rush, plaster, paper, ceramic, fabric, and mulberry.
Tea is a simple version of tea.
Let's call attention to the detail and the aesthetics of the design of the tea house. Tea house is designed in the rustic tradition or artless style of the 15th century artist Agori Soton.
Other objects used in preparing tea are made for
The materials used were wood, bamboo, stone, metal, rush, plaster, paper, ceramic, fabric, and mulberry.
tea is a simple version of tea.
A tea house is a refuge from the routines of daily life. Proximity to the garden is important as it can be viewed from both buildings. Everything inside is carefully planned and placed.
Japanese architect named Ogi Rodo, and he built it from a design that dates back to the 15th century. He used materials from an 18th century tea house. So there are elements of this material from the 18th century as well as from when it was built in 1917. And you can see that it's all natural material. There's cedar on the roof. He used bamboo for the gutters. He used a pine, and if you look inside, he kept as much as possible. Sometimes even the design of that wood is just the natural shape. The tea house really was two houses in one. There is a room that is the waiting area where people who were getting ready to go to the tea ceremony would wait. And the tea ceremony was so much more than just a tea ceremony, and it's still going on today. There's a little video that you can watch if you want to later that really describes it. But it's been called meditation in motion. It forces people to leave their everyday life and to concentrate on the moment. These stones that you see are irregular on purpose, and you might have found yourself wondering, where you're going to walk. And the museum did this on purpose to make you think of the moment. It's supposed to make you, aware of where you are. It involves not only the making of the very bitter tea, the eating of the very sweet cakes, but it also involves flower arranging. There might be one little flower in there to gaze upon. It involves calligraphy, one little calligraphy. It involves the material ceramics that are used to boil the tea and to serve the little sweets in, and the more irregular and the more close to nature, the better. Now you'll notice there's a little path here. When the tea was ready, the visitors would be called to go upon a certain path. The little black ribbons would tell them where to go. They'd probably wash their hands first in that little place, and then they'd kneel on that stone and go in humbly in that one little doorway. And everyone would enter in that same doorway, well, except of course people had already made the tea. But all the visitors would enter because everyone is equal in the tea ceremony. There is nobody who is higher. The only person who would go through that major big door would be royalty, the emperor, or someone who was too fat and couldn't fit in there. So once they got in there, it was really a strict ceremony that really there are rules, there are books about how the tea is to be made, what is to be served, what is to be talked about. You can talk about the calligraphy, you can talk about the tea, can't talk about business, can't talk about anything personal. It's really supposed to clear your mind of clutter and just, make it more peaceful. And it's still going on today from what I hear. This was used in some ceremonies. Very prominent people in Japan in the early 20th century did attend